Howdy y'all, and welcome back to the Anime Field Guide. My name is Dave, and this is my podcast where I review anime and talk about the fine folks who make it all possible. Today's review, we're going to get a little weird, we're going to get a little crazy, we're going to get a little Fooly Cooly. This is the 6-episode wacky surrealist comedy series created and directed by Kazuya Tsurumaki. It was a co-production between studios Gainax and Production IG. I hope you guys are excited. And before we get into the weird, of course, I have all the regular and totally normal podcast intros and updates to get through. So let's get the plugs out of the way. First of all, of course, welcome to any first-time listeners. I'm glad you found the show, and thank you especially to my returning listeners. Welcome back. It's good to have you back again. If you haven't already, please give the show a good follow, a subscribe, give us a 5-star review to show your support, all of those good things. And most importantly, I'm glad you found the show. I'm glad you made my show part of your day. The only real update I have for y'all is we are no longer on Linktree. They basically had an upcoming policy regarding AI where anything uploaded to the Linktree site is fair game for AI manipulation. I don't need an AI assistant to host a damn set of links. So I have moved over to Card for the time. It's just another Linktree adjacent site. So that is Card with 2 R's. You can find it Anime Field Guide at Card. Of course, that's going to be in the episode description, so I don't need to do all of that stuff. It's at the top of the episode description, so if you haven't followed the social media and all that stuff, then that's where you can find all of that, plus a link to our Discord. Or, of course, you can send all inquiries to our email address, animefieldguide@gmail.com. The Gmail is probably the best way to get in touch with me directly. It's time to get into the main meat of the episode, because today I am very pleased to welcome back some good old friends of the show, previously from the Treehouse Anime Club with Chopits and Hell's Moving Castle, and now finally on the new show on the Anime Field Guide. I'm very pleased to welcome Ichigo and Mikan of Anime Sakai. How y'all doing tonight, ladies?
Hey.
Hey.
Thanks so much for having us.
It's a delight to have you back. This is very long overdue.
Yes, definitely.
This is going to be a good one. But for those who may not know what the Anime Sakai podcast is, would you like to tell the fine folks what it is that you get to do on the internet?
Yes, hi. I'm Ichigo. I am one half of Anime Sakai podcast.
And I am Mikan, the other half.
And we are 2 best friends who just sit and discuss really any type of anime or anime type discussion. We have 2 polar opposite views of anime and our tastes. And so it's just great to come together and just discuss things that interest us. It's like 2 best friends inviting other best friends just to come and have a talk about anime and things that we like.
Well, once again, welcome to the show. It's very excited to have you. And I'm very excited to talk about a very fun cartoon, that being Fooly Cooly. So I figured to help the folks get to know y'all a little bit better, I figured we would turn on the community spotlight real quick. So this month's community spotlight question, as a little icebreaker of sorts, is in honor of Fooly Cooly and the whole cartoonish nature of the series, I asked the Anime Field Guide Discord community if you could have one cartoonish weapon or superpower, what would it be? So we have a couple of write-ins here before we get to our picks. So Tyler from the Anime Degens podcast just says, just give me the ability to pull anything I want out of thin air. That would be dope. It's kind of overpowered, don't you think? Like anything, really? Couldn't be like squeaky toy, singing sword, who knows?
Sounds good to me.
It sounds good to me as well. I have nothing to worry about there. What in the Roger Rabbit is this? We have Fallen Snow Kiku, who says, if I could have one cartoonish superpower, it would be to transform my body and or voice and be able to do any sort of imitation of someone or something. So she basically wants to be Mystique from X-Men. Got it.
Oh.
That's cool.
Easy
That
enough.
does sound cool.
That doesn't sound cartoonish. That just sounds scary. That just sounds like ultimate doppelganger and just ultimate identity crisis 24/7. And then rounding us off, we have Anime Corner James from the Anime Corner podcast. He says, I would say mid-air running, but I would fall as soon as I would look down. So very much like Roadrunner Coyote, which speaking of, I cannot wait for Coyote versus Acme. I am in that theater. Did y'all see any of the Looney Tunes movies?
I think my last Looney Tune movie was Space Jam.
Also an excellent one. Yep. Also a classic.
And I'm not talking, I mean, I did see the remake with LeBron James, but...
Well, sure. I know which Space Jam you meant. I
yes.
know. I think we all know which Space Jam you meant.
The OG.
I know my audience. Yeah, the OG.
The OG.
But speaking of Looney Tunes, I thought, kind of in that vein, I would like my cartoon power to be one of those portable black holes, like those portable rabbit holes that I could just throw onto any surface and just jump through. So
Ooh.
Again, like Roger Rabbit's like Bugs Bunny, just throw a portal into the wall and I'm out. That's all, folks.
That does sound a little scary, though.
Yeah,
I wouldn't use it for nefarious purposes. I would use it to escape. I got to get away from Elmer Fudd.
Escape.
But what happens to the black hole once you escape? Do you pick it back up, or does it still
stay
there?
No, this is cartoon logic. I just pull it back with me.
You pull it. Okay,
it's a singularity, and then I just appear from somewhere else.
Okay,
it sounds a little scary though.
Nothing scary about it at all. Do y'all have a cartoon power that you would like to inflict upon the world?
I feel like for me, I would kind of go with the same as one of the commenters. I kind of want something like, you know how Green Lantern can, whatever he imagines can make it happen, like weapon, anything.
Absolutely.
I kind of want something like that if I had to pick. My imagination is the limit.
I think for me, I would want the power to be able to teleport anywhere.
See, it's hard to resist, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's like, okay, I want to go to Hawaii this weekend, but I don't want to pay for airfare. So let me just teleport over to Hawaii for the next 24, 48 hours. I could just, boom. But knowing me, I would just teleport back and forth to Japan, and I would probably not go anywhere else.
Probably. I feel like you just need a one-way ticket to just Japan and you're good.
Well, then if I teleport, then it's like, okay, well, for lunch I really want some sushi, but I don't want to go to the restaurant down the street. Let me just teleport to a 24-hour sushi restaurant in Japan, get me some sushi, and then be back in an hour.
Honestly, that doesn't sound too bad.
That was really fun, so we all feel nice and warmed up. Thank you, everybody, for writing in. So I'm going to play a little bit of a clip. Fooly Cooly, it was huge on Adult Swim and Toonami, so of course it feels very appropriate for me to play a little Toonami clip and to bring us in here. So we'll see you in about a couple seconds.
School sucks. My dad's a weirdo. Then there's my brother's girlfriend. I don't even know what to say about her. Anyway, life was pretty slow until she came along. Next thing I knew, I had things coming out of my head.
It's weird, not normal, these horns sticking out.
And I had a robot living in my house. And well, a bunch of other weird stuff.
I don't care.
But that alien girl, she's kind of cool, I guess.
Don't lie, you like her.
Whatever. It's really not that big a deal.
All right, welcome back. So kicking us off, I'm going to do just a general story summary of Fooly Cooly for as much as the story matters, I suppose. So Naota is our main character. He is a moody 12-year-old boy living in a small town where nothing happens, and folks constantly compare him to his older brother who has left him to be a baseball star over in America. Naota only seems to attract the attention of troublesome people, such as Mamimi, his brother's former girlfriend, and a woman named Haruko, a hyperactive guitar-wielding chick on a Vespa. In a spectacular hit-and-run start to this boy meets girl comedy, Haruko whacks Naota on the head with her Rickenbacker 4001 bass, and now he's horny. And when Naota gets horny, robots emerge from his head, and they start attacking the town. These robots are produced by a corporation called Medical Mechanica, and they are headquartered in a giant iron-shaped building. I'm talking about one of those like a steam iron-shaped buildings. And of course, these guys are bad news for the planet Earth. The first of these robots, however, is a friendly helper robot named Kanti. He has a television for a head. Don't ask. When it's time to fight, Kanti eats Naota and transforms into a red battle form. Again, don't ask. Where Naota gets fired out of a cannon and whizzes around like a cartoon bullet. Okay, you get the picture. Chaos, destruction, and a hell of a lot of cool animation follows, yet the carnage never really seems to affect the town much by the next episode. So what does any of this mean? Who is Haruko and what is her aim in all of this? Why is everyone in this anime horny? What is FLCL? Fooly Cooly. So that's how it starts. How did y'all first discover this miraculous little cartoon from Gainax?
I believe I saw it when it first, probably not when it first aired, but a little bit after. And I just remember this was quite popular at the time. I mean, it's become a classic. Because it was very short, there was a lot of talk around it. And of course, I had to take a look for myself. This was probably my first experience into an anime like this. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of weird anime in my day. But still, this was quite unique. And I feel like Tsurumaki, he really did have that goal of break all the rules, if you will. And I feel like that's how it worked.
Trying to think. I believe my introduction to Fooly Cooly was back when it came out on Adult Swim, Cartoon Network. And I remember at the time just thinking, this is very random. I do remember laughing a lot. And even when I rewatched it, laughing still kind of at the same parts. I still, even now, like rewatching it, I'm like, this is still just very, very random.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice break from reality, though.
It is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I got into Fooly Cooly pretty late. And really, I got into a lot of the Gainax catalog pretty late. It was around like 2019. And maybe there was one of the reruns on Cartoon Network, because this got a lot of reruns on Adult Swim after its initial premiere. So like several reruns since 2003. Yeah, it probably was one of those anniversary rewatches, but I didn't really like sit down and absorb the series until about 2019 when Netflix got Neon Genesis Evangelion, which then got me into more of the Gainax stuff. And the more I sit down and rewatch it, especially for like this episode, this is probably my third time rewatching it all total.
Even years later, decades later, it still looks phenomenal. It really does.
So like we said, this is created and directed by Kazuya Tsurumaki over at Gainax, who is a very close understudy and co-worker of Hideaki Anno. So he was, Tsurumaki had, director plus screenplay and story credits for episodes 5 and 6 of Gunbuster. So the really, really cool stylized episodes of Gunbuster, plus the first 10 episodes of Nadia, The Secret of Blue Water. He was the assistant director on Neon Genesis Evangelion. And then after Fooly Cooly, he was the chief director on Die Buster, and then of course he naturally followed Anno to Studio Kara, where he was the director. Anno is the chief director, then Tsurumaki's right under him on the rebuild of Evangelion movies. And then most recently, he was the director of Mobile Suit Gundam G-Quux. And the writer of Fooly Cooly, to start this off as well, this is series composition is Yoji Inokido, also a veteran of Gainax, who did the scripts for Neon Genesis Evangelion, and also Kare Kano, his and her circumstances. Also previously, he was on scripts for Sailor Moon S. He was on the scripts for Revolutionary Girl Utena. Outside of Gainax and these shows, he worked on Melody of Oblivion for JC Staff. With Bones, he worked on Razafon, Ouran High School Host Club, Bungo Stray Dogs, and of course, also series composition for Gundam G-Quux. So a lot of parallels to the struggles of the adolescent protagonists to be true to themselves in a world that doesn't make sense. Going into, like, after the first episode and just the general plot of Fooly Cooly, what do you guys think of, like, the story and the setting and Naota's journey?
Well, for me, I mean, it's very, like, an avant-garde mecha, typical mecha, like, anime of that time, I feel like, and you can see the heavy influences from Evangelion, which obviously there's a lot of
in particular, yeah,
influences from there because of the people who worked on it. I feel what really differentiated it from everything else during that period was truly how absolutely bizarre it was, because Evangelion is much more serious, and I feel like that was a very common theme in mecha, but this is like a whole nother step, and it's just confusion, kind of how an adolescent might view the world. You know what I mean? It's very confusing, and you're just in their mind. It's just a mess in there kind of thing. And I feel like that's why it worked so well.
it's Evangelion was such a raw look into, the tortured mind of Anno at the time. He was going through it.
Yeah.
Obviously, of course, filled with a bunch of things that he loved, including Ultraman, huge Ultraman fans. It was a series like very personal to Anno. It's like, I feel like in the same way to start with Fooly Cooly, it's like feels like a show that's very personal to Kazuya Tsurumaki. It's chock full of things that he loves. I think it's very clear that while Evangelion was very serious and detailed and dark, Fooly Cooly is very much like, take a load off. It's all about joy, but it's still rooted in trying to find a place to belong. And, also about your first crush.
And it's all messy.
Yeah, I was going to say it's him being a teenager. He's trying to grow and trying to understand the world and trying to understand, essentially how to become an adult, but then the adults in the show also don't have it together. And so it's kind of like a realization that you're not always going to have it together when you become an adult, but that's just sometimes life for some people. But it's just the chaos and the funny times and the good times. And despite everything that's going on, there's still joy. There's still time for laughter and time for happiness and things like that, despite everything that's going on around him in this change.
Yeah, the adults around him are comically incompetent.
Yes.
Yes.
It is unbelievable how incompetent the adults are around him. And I love that they really lean into that with the story end, which of course, like, speaking of things that are like very personal to Tsurumaki, one of the very first things that he requested was, this is a love story, but there has to be robot battles. And Inokido very clearly asked him, in what way does this story require robots? And Tsurumaki was like, I just really want robots in the show. So it's like, okay, we'll make
that's
something.
a personal preference.
Okay, we'll make something work. This is just a personal preference. Please put robots in the show. Onegaishimasu. It's like, okay, so we made it work. So yeah, he really wanted a robot in the show. So that's where the whole blocky humanoid robot with a television for a head, and now we can work gags in through the TV screen. The robot battles being a representation of suppressed emotions, boiling to the surface is certainly a choice, but it's such a weird creative choice that I'm glad that Tsurumaki essentially forced the robot battles into the show, because they're easily one of the animation highlights of the show. It's not just also like the blocky robots. All these robots are themed around hands. Like, one is literally the director's hand, Tsurumaki's hand, modeled into the show.
Yeah, that was a very interesting choice. But I thought like the designs were very unique. It's just very it's like mecha, but unmecha. Because I feel like the only, the most comparable thing that I can remember that came after is definitely like Gurren Lagann, which obviously was also heavily inspired. But at the time, like, I feel like mecha anime was it was either very robotic or like humanoid. The way they styled it in Fooly Cooly, I liked it. It was kind of like almost cute, but also funny.
This is a kind of weird coincidence that this episode is coming right after Gurren Lagann from May. Because when we were scheduling this, I had no idea that Gurren Lagann would win the mecha poll.
Oh.
So in that episode, I talked a lot about how Fooly Cooly influenced Gurren Lagann, because Hideyuki Imaishi and a lot of folks who worked on this show were on the animation team, and also like were the animation director and other like sub-script writers on this show, and then took a lot of the designs, like the character designs, were a major influence on the character designs. The character designs here were a major influence on the designs in Gurren Lagann. And of course, the first time Kanti eats Naota, again, the robot eater, it literally eats the kid, but then you see this light bulb being screwed into the back of the kid's head. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you have the spiral imagery start to come in. It's like, oh, that's really cool.
Yes.
So they really like ran with that.
I will say, I think my second watch, because for me, Gurren Lagann is like one of my favorite animes in general, but also one of my favorite like mecha, if you will. And so when I rewatched Fooly Cooly, it really, I feel like I liked it more almost because now I've had the experience of watching Gurren Lagann. Like rewatching it, I got to see like, oh, this is where a lot of these things came from. I feel like I enjoyed it a lot more knowing what I know now.
The one thing that just stands out to me is just the craziness of it all from the show. It was a trip down memory lane for me since watching it when it first, I guess I'm telling my age, but around the time when it first came out on Adult Swim. But rewatching it this time around, it was nostalgic. It was a nice little trip down memory lane.
I agree. You don't realize how old it is because it does look good, you know, still the animation and everything. But when you look at the date, you're like, oh my goodness, it cannot be that old.
It's a show steeped in nostalgia, even then.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just such a personal series of, okay, I remember this soda, remember this magazine, remember this kind of store, like these brands. And so like, and then for the English team to then have to translate all of that into something similar enough. I also, before I forget, I do want to mention that Naota's horns, like when we say that the kid gets horny, like he literally grows a horn out of his head, and it's a teleporter for these robots. It's such just another just wackadoodle thing of how do we put robots in the show. I got it. They're going to teleport into the show through a horn on his head. Because obviously, like, Haruko is the main draw of this series. Naota is our vehicle, but Haruko is the crazy lady that comes in and disrupts his life and literally changes his body and his mind. Like, when she hits him with the guitar, she creates this portal. So now his brain is somewhere else, and he's got to teleport. He's got like a void in his head. So the staff wanted to express how Naota's brain had been altered by Haruko's bass guitar, and then Inokido took it a couple steps further with the horn and, particular different shapes of the horn, which, again, another step of adding a lot of innuendo to the series and a lot of other representations for, your first crush and your reactions to your first crush. Also, one episode, Naota just gets kitty ears because it wasn't just horns. They just let's just put weird stuff on the kid's head.
I remember the cat ears. That was cute. So cute.
It really feeds into like the idea, because I think it's pretty clear from the start that Naota feels pretty isolated and that people are just kind of moving him around, like he's not really in control. It's almost like the town is, like you said, we said nostalgia earlier, it's almost like the town is stuck in a time that no longer exists. The very analog setting, the early cell phones, if they even have cell phones at all, no internet, vintage sodas, old magazines.
Oh, yeah. And wasn't there an episode with an old school candy shop?
It kind of feeds into, when you think of the rural life, a slower pace, but it also can be a bit melancholic. It's also can be represent like stuck in place. Naota and Mamimi are both experiencing loneliness because their big idol is no longer there. So they're both coping in their respective, unhealthy ways. And I think the show does a pretty good job of showing that, Mamimi is stuck in the past while Naota is stuck in the present. He's afraid to move forward, but he's not sure how to. And then Haruko is like, again, the crazy thing that just changes it all. It gets everybody to move forward a bit.
She is definitely the force that drives pretty much everybody in the show.
Force of chaos there.
Yes, force of chaos. Thank you. Force of chaos that definitely pushes everybody in the show to change one way or another.
What's the last time you really saw, like, it's kind of like get into the animation a little bit here? Like we said, like this is all over the place and just wide variety of styles. Like, what's the last time you saw like a true slapstick comedy in animation?
I don't know. I feel like that would be more of Ichigo's style. I feel like especially in recent years, I don't really watch a lot of this type. Well, I mean, this is a very different but I don't think I really often watch like more
slapstick
comedic style. Yeah. I'm definitely more of the serious genre for sure.
The only show that comes to mind is when they did a remake of, I can't even remember what year, but it was 30s, 40s anime of Osomatsu-san.
Oh, Osomatsu-san,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That is very slapstick and random. Somehow it has a storyline, quote unquote, that it follows close to the end of that particular season, and then that season ends. But by the time the next season starts, it doesn't follow per se how the last season ended. It does a little bit, but not like in your face, but nothing compared to Fooly Cooly. If out of all the comedic anime that I've watched, there's nothing as random and out there as Fooly Cooly. There's just not.
Yeah, I think the only one I can think of that might be of this is more like in a short form anime. It is Pop Team Epic. And every episode, you have the first half of the episode and they play it one way, and then they repeat that exact same front half, but they twist, they do things with a twist. And sometimes they change like one little thing, and then all of a sudden, then another segment, they'll change something like the whole thing. So sometimes like they'll swap voice actors, entire voice cast and things, and then they'll cut to live action where the director is, quote, beating up the voice actors for doing a bad job. But that one's more like spaghetti at the wall. Everything is just kind of like a jokes per second about that, while Fooly Cooly is able to do all of that and still have a somewhat consistent storyline. I actually like getting a little bit into the actual animation deal. You know, this is heavily referential series. You know, a big part of the humor of Fooly Cooly is, of course, shouting out all the different references, of course, through gainax properties, and even back to the Daikon film days. And of course, just popular anime in general. You know, this is anime nerds anime. And also, they'll just have random references to American cartoons. I've seen glimpses of, I saw like one big glimpse of Invader Zim. There was like one of the shop lights for like a quick scene. One of the fight scenes, like Superman flies out of it for some reason. Mm-hmm. And
South Park.
A whole kind of just...
South Park.
Yeah, the South Park especially. Yeah, I was leading up to it. The South Park, the full-on South Park segment, which is a perfect example of just, you want to explain how incompetent the adults are in this show. Like you get the one guy, Amaral, who's also, again, leading back to that guy, that whole theme of people being stuck in place. You know, this guy's supposed to be an adult, and he definitely does not have it together. Amaral may be one of my favorite characters in the show because he's trying to be such a 70s macho man, and his eyebrows are like super, super thick, and he wants to have like these sideburns. And
yeah,
it's all just seaweed. He's just pasting seaweed on his face.
I really do like how they just make all the adults.
I love this idiot.
Yeah, like such morons, and there's no like strong sense of self for all of them. They kind of just fall apart. And I feel like the only kind of adult that has any sort of strong sense is Haruko. And that's what I love about it, because everybody else is so useless. And the one absolutely crazy character, absolutely crazy one, is the only kind of one that's like standing strong. And so for like a kid like Naoto to only be able to witness that as an adult form is very unfortunate, if you will. Must be very confusing.
Naoto's dad is like so crazy that self-aware that he basically like starts breaking the fourth wall. The things that his dad the tangents that his dad will just go on is all of a sudden it's just the animation staff going, what would be funny to make this guy say? I love the references, like, because Naoto's dad is also like, the voice box for what was it? Think of South Park. Naoto's dad is like the member berries of Fooly Cooly. Like he's out here talking about Yoshiyuki Tomino and Gundam. He's out here making Lupin the Third references. You know, he's trying to sleep with Haruko, and he jumps out of his clothes, tries to dive in, and she takes him out with the sucker punch. What was it? Yeah, with the spring-loaded boxing glove.
Yeah, bit of a creeper, the dad.
Yes, very much so.
He really is. He really is. Oh my gosh.
Very much so.
I also like how the headquarters where Amaral works, the name's escaping, but the space inspectors, the folks who are like watching the Earth for all the interstellar activity. I love all of the Men in Black jokes that they get to do. Like all of a sudden you have the agents show up. So it's like the agents from the Matrix are like Men in Black. Their workspace is literally the Evangelion like screens, like they're in the base.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The characters are also like feel a little bit familiar. Again, everybody on this show worked on Evangelion. Fooly Cooly is very much like blowing off steam in the way of like Project Echo after folks were finished with Urusei Yatsura, kind of like the same vein of just, yeah, I mean, there's lovely character designs by Yoshiyuki Sadamoto, gainax veteran, been there since the Daikon days, character designer on Royal Space Force, and literally every major property produced by Gainax up until his departure for Studio Kata. And like we said before, his design work here and his character designs were a big influence for Gurren Lagann. For some other folks, we have some animation directors I wanted to shout out real quick. Tadashi Hiramatsu on episodes 1, 3, and 6. This is also his character designer debut, was on the previous anime, His and Her Circumstances. And then he was later known for Yuri on Ice and Jujutsu Kaisen at MAPPA, including a couple of others. Nobutoshi Ogura on episode 4. He was a freelance key animator on Gainax and Production IG. And then he later did like storyboards on Studio Trigger. And of course, obviously, we have Hideyuki Imaishi as an animation director here. He worked on episodes 2 and 5. And after Fooly Cooly, he would work on a couple other series, but he really went a little over to Production IG for a little while because his directorial debut came after Fooly Cooly on 2004's short film Dead Leaves over at Production IG. And then he came back to Gurren Lagann, of course, following the departure of Anno and eventually being a co-founder of Trigger. And then we have the art directors, all the environmental designs and everything, is Hiromasa Ogura. Had worked on Wings of Oniyami's and the last 5 episodes of Nadia over at Gainax, but at the time of Fooly Cooly, he was working for Production IG and was leading their background sections. And he was also the art director on Pat Labor the Movie, Pat Labor the Movie 2. He was the art director on Dead Leaves, Jinro the Wolf Brigade, and then XXX Holic, or just Holic. And then we have the, as far as what 3D CG is in this anime, there's a little bit, which I love how the CG is incorporated into the show. But it's Shinji Takagi over at Production IG. And what did you guys think of the CG in this anime? Like the only being for the over-the-top collisions and a kissing scene, and then like the manga panels were surprisingly in CG as well.
I feel like that was an interesting stylistic choice, especially for the, I think,
the most mundane thing ever.
Yes.
Just do it over the top of CG.
That was definitely a choice there.
The voice actors the voice cast are in on it too. You got to hold your breath during the CG, or else they make you do a retake.
Yeah, I always wondered why that was done. And I know, I do remember there was some talk, like whenever I see discourse about Fooly Cooly or anything like that, people always mention how the CG looked a bit stiff and kind of generic, I guess, compared to the rest of the thing. And I always wonder like why that was done specifically. I never understood. Was that just for fun? Like just to try it out for funsies? Purely
an animation gag. Because if you think of like bad CGI and like directors who just overuse CGI, you're thinking of always doing camera tricks, air quotes, or like spinning the environment and doing things. So of course, the time that Fooly Cooly does, the only time Fooly Cooly does CGI, it's to make the entire scene like spin on the top like it's a Beyblade or something. Like you can almost like not even follow the characters.
Yes.
Because Fooly Cooly, like one of the chief gags, speaking of animation, the animation style of Fooly Cooly will swap on a dime. Character designs will just change at a moment's notice. Again, South Park art style notwithstanding, other art styles will just come in seemingly at random, which I think is another chief appeal to why this show, it really just feels into like whole surrealist comedy of the show. I was like, what are they going to make these characters look like next?
I think I would have liked to see a Disney theme in there somewhere. Just a small part of me seeing all this chaos in like a Disney animation.
A Disney parody?
Yes.
like a Disney Renaissance parody?
Yes.
That would be amazing. I would love that.
I think it would be
could add
fitting.
like a Disney princess vibe to one of the characters.
Yes. Haruka.
One of the highlights of like the first episode is when things get so crazy that the series like just devolves into manga panels, air quotes. I have never seen another show go quite that direction before or since.
I mean, that was actually one of my favorite like visual aspects. I thought that was really cool. And I still remember when I first saw it, that transition I thought it was really, really cool. I had never really seen anything like that well, even to this day, I'm still like, when I think of Fooly Cooly, like that's the moment I kind of remember the most.
Surprisingly, the manga panels were a terrible pain to animate in the CG because it required all this specific timing. And of course, the manga panels are shaking all over the place. Random zoom in, zoom outs, and you have to sync the dialogue. So the timing and the camera work was like impossible in cell animation. And then it just gave the CGI team a massive headache that Tsurumaki was asked to never request this kind of shot again. So what do? They made the characters joke about it. Then they brought it back for episode 6. He did in fact request the shot again.
It doesn't seem like that type of scene would be the most difficult, you know, visually speaking. But the fact that it is quite interesting to me.
Some reviews or like just general discourse was, you know, the manga panels were kind of, quote, cheaping out, and they actually ended up being one of the most painstaking and therefore one of the more expensive shots in the show. Other like animation gags that stick out to you, or like any kind of other favorite moments in the show before we get on to like say the music? I don't want to leave anything on the table here.
Well, for me, for how like intense and colorful and sparkly it does remind me or makes me remember how I feel like older animation, and this goes for like most TV shows and most even like children's TV shows now, like the color and the way they made it was much more calmer feeling. Like I don't know how to explain it, but
cell animation versus digital.
I think so. And it's like less it's not as stimulating, you know, to the brain, I feel like. And so even everything was like going crazy. I don't feel like my eyes are going crazy or I don't feel overstimulated. And that does feel like a very back then type of style. And I don't know what exactly, I mean, I guess color grading and everything is very different now. So, but I do miss that, I will say.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of shows that have that sort of either gag action or just action in general, it's bright colors and everything shooting around all at once. And so it's easy to get overstimulated. But with a show like this, in the color scheme, I get what you're saying. Like, despite everything that's going on all at once, all at the same time, you don't feel overstimulated in a sense where like after you watch one episode, you're like, okay, I just need to go sit by myself for a few minutes and relax.
Yes. If talk a little bit about the art direction, I think what makes Fooly Cooly stand out so much to me, and despite all of the style changes and all the crazy just animation shifts and character designs just changing on a whim and art style changing, is they are very clear to frame the action very well, you know, to keep things in focus. And it has a very good sense of consistent flow, is what I would say. Like Fooly Cooly has a consistent action flow, especially once you kind of like settle in and realize like this is the kind of show you're watching. After like, I think they get it all out of the way, or most of the craziness out of the way in the first episode, because then everything follows it's a mad logic, but it's a logic all the same in Fooly Cooly of how things work. And like I said, the bright colors, the good color palette, but also there are plenty of scenes where Fooly Cooly goes really dark, strong contrast, you know, the evening scenes, deep shadows. And that's where they can really frame the more dramatic and, again, pull in like the long shadows and that melancholy of being alone in a small town when it does need to have those more somber moments. You know, it's not all comedy yuck yucks. It's mostly comedy yuck yucks. But then, you know, you have those points. And even then, they'll use dramatic mood and lighting for comedy. You know, you'll have there's the episode where they're all having the big airsoft fight. And so, you know, the noble sacrifice all of a sudden, you know, go on without me. And I think that flexibility is what makes Fooly Cooly such a joy to watch, and especially rewatch. Also really enhanced by just this amazing soundtrack. And it's also another unique thing that I don't know another anime, like certainly there's licensed music across anime, but I've never seen another anime that did entirely licensed music. Tsurumaki really liked this alternative rock band, The Pillows. And these guys have been around, you know, they've been around since like 1989, and they had a long run even all the way up to January 2025. At the time, I mean, it's not like they were a particularly well-known band at the time, but they had a following. And Tsurumaki just approached them with an offer to license their first 3 albums for Fooly Cooly. They said, yeah, take the whole lot. 2 of the songs in Fooly Cooly, particularly the ending credits song, Right on Shooting Star, and then another song, I Think I Can, those were fresh songs composed for this anime. Right on Shooting Star was actually such a big hit for the Pillows that they were able to take multiple tours in the US through the 2000s and later the 2010s. They came back, of course, they produced more music for the sequels, so they brought the Pillows back for the later seasons of Fooly Cooly. But Right on Shooting Star really opened the door for them to start touring overseas.
I honestly feel like that was a very good stylistic choice because it kind of made that whole rebellious vibe work as well as the chaos and truly like the angst of puberty. It like fits perfectly.
Yeah, it's got this like almost unfiltered or like open mic sound, like we're next to the band at a live show. And again, it's like so much of our music is like filtered, altered, like so very clean that this one just feels like very raw and open. And also just, again, we don't hear a lot of bands that sound like this anymore. I don't know if they ever made it to like mainstream status, but I mean, you have a band like that suddenly has a big anime hit on their hands. We've seen the story play out a bunch of times of, you get the one hit anime song and all of a sudden your band has a second wind.
Yeah.
I think all of this is, it's pretty clear that Fooly Cooly is a very deeply personal project. I think Tsurumaki poured so much of himself into his cartoon, but chiefly it's interesting to look at Gainax's catalog, I think, in a post-Evangelion stage, because Fooly Cooly and especially Gurren Lagann and others were, while other folks were trying to emulate Evangelion, Fooly Cooly and Gurren Lagann were trying to rebel against the very idea of Neon Genesis Evangelion. What are some of your thoughts on like the voice cast? Did you guys watch this mostly in Japanese or did you watch this in English?
Yes, so I am a Japanese exclusive. I only watch in Japanese.
Yeah, I am too. Only Japanese, but the first time I watched it was in English because it was in English on Adult Swim. So then when I rewatched it, I definitely watched it in Japanese.
I'm curious to know what the differences in their voices are because I've never heard the English version at all. So I have no clue. Is it kind of similar? Is the vibe similar or?
Yeah, because speaking of the English dub, they did something really interesting. First off, this is handled by Mark Handler. I did not mean to do that, but I'm keeping it. He did a lot for this show. He was one of the translators. He was on ADR, and then he took the translation and put that to the ADR script, and he was also the ADR director. And Fooly Cooly, naturally, because so much is thrown into the mix with the audio side and the voice cast and so many in-jokes, understand, with so many specifically Japanese in-jokes and references, hey, remember this, that this was an incredibly challenging project. And actually, he thankfully had a direct line to Tsurumaki and crew, to where if he and the translation crew were ever like stuck, they could just call up the Japanese cast and get some help. And Tsurumaki was actually in the studio with him on the first couple of days of the English cast recording their lines. So Mark Handler is I have just a couple of his like big highlights from his time. He has Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex. He also worked on Cowboy Bebop, which is another big one for him at the time, another feather in his cap. ADR and script for Code Geass. But that's his time at the other studio, because this is at Sync Point. This was a shorter-lived studio. It was a subdivision of Digital Manga Incorporation and Production IG. And then after that dissolved, Funimation was picked up the license for Fooly Cooly in 2010, and they kept that original one. Sync Point was also the recording studio for Digicharat, plus that unreleased movie, and then Aquarian Age, the movie, and Leave It to Pyoko, with just a couple of examples there. But yeah, Tsurumaki himself actually showed up to the recording booth for the English dub of Fooly Cooly, and in some cases he actually liked some of the direction of the English cast better than the Japanese original for some of the side characters. But of course, for Haruko Haruhara, starting in the Japanese, we've got the Mayumi Shitani. She was brought in after her performance specifically as, Tsubasa Shibahime from His and Her Circumstances. Not a voice you hear very often, and it was a very also unique aspect of her performance in His or Her Circumstances, if I recall.
I remember her voice very well. Her voice it always gets me every single time.
I think really the director's commentary, watching this twice with the first watching Fooly Cooly straight and then watching it with Tsurumaki's commentary, that's a reason to pick up the Blu-ray by itself. There's so many things of why is this in the anime? You're thinking why is this here? And Tsurumaki's yeah, I like this one thing. I really like baseball, so I wanted to have a baseball episode for the couple of minutes. I like guitars, so I said, let's just hit people with guitars because that's how I could fit it into the story. Yeah, another thing about Haruko's character is her early deal, because Haruko goes, we said, a force of chaos. Basically, she's Harley Quinn, if you want to think of, or the more modern day Harley Quinn, just a force of chaos with her own agenda.
I could see Harley Quinn for Haruko.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good depiction of her. Perfect.
They started with the idea of Haruko. They wanted an irresponsible adult, so many irresponsible adults, but everyone's first, a selfish adult. So everyone's first reaction was like Misato from Neon Genesis Evangelion. No, we do not want Misato. Mm-hmm. So they were actually working with Tsubasa Shiba. They were actually working with Mayumi, and they actually workshopped the more chaotic elements of Haruko into the anime based on her feedback. So it's an interesting case of, again, the voice actress actually shaped the character that she was going to voice. It's just another kind of cool behind the scenes thing that I was not aware of, but it kind of makes sense, which is why I feel like it just suits her so perfectly in this particular anime. In English, Haruko was voiced by Kari Wahlgren, and this was actually a big career break for her, as this was her voice actress debut, and has now been in the business, ever since Fooly Cooly. So it's interesting to see, this is not only her big, her debut anime role, but it's one that's gone on to basically to define her career, both in anime and outside. She also voices Tigress from Kung Fu Panda TV series, Wonder Woman, Emma Frost, Starfire, Amuro the Enchantress from Teen Titans. But also she's voiced Celty from Dorarara, Fu from Samurai Champloo, and then more recently Seiko Ayase from Dandadan. A lot of her direction, what was interesting about the English dub was they not only took a lot of cues from the Japanese cast, they were actually directed to include some of the Japanese sound effects and some of the honorifics, which how many dubs have you seen in an anime where that just completely blows up in their face?
A lot of them.
I mean, I've heard a lot. I haven't actually watched any anime fully dubbed, but I've seen so many clips, and that does give me the ick.
I think it just worked here because the English cast was able to emulate it so closely. Of course, they also had the Japanese director sitting in the booth with them to kind of give them this direction. So it was an interesting case where it just worked for this one because there were so many other things off the wall already happening, and I'm glad they fed into that because it really feeds, it just kind of adds to that little surrealist absurdity that we keep referring back to for Fooly Cooly.
Yeah, I do think with this style, because they're almost making fun of it, I feel from the sounds of it. Yeah. But when it's done in other anime, they're being serious.
They have to say it. Yeah.
It's not a gag. It's they're trying to be serious with it, and that's really where it falls off a lot of times, I think.
Yeah, it's almost like the English cast was in on the joke with the Japanese cast. There's a little bit of a fun little cross-cultural exchange happening. So moving on, we have our main character, Naota Nandaba, who's voiced by Jun Mizuki, and the only, this is really his only, big main character role. His other roles, I see a lot of characters like Magical Doremi, but so this was more like a new voice actor. But for acting opposite of Jun is Barbara Goodson on the English side. And she's done the streamlined dubs of Akira. She was Pazu from Castle in the Sky, so that was the 1989 dub. Alcyone from the Magic Knight's Ray Earth. And also, some more recent credits. She was the headmaster Toyo Tetsudome from Sanda. And she is the English voice of Turbo Granny for Dan Da Dan.
Podzu to Turbo Granny.
And then for the girlfriend left behind, Mamimi Samajima, which also, I think like some of these names, like Naota Nandaba, Namimi Samajima, Haruka Harahara, like these are clearly names that were like, I think there was a side.
They're almost like tongue twisters.
There's a bunch of tongue twisters. So I also like love the English outtakes of the voice actors going, give me another chance. But Mamimi is voiced by Izumi Kasagi. This is her anime debut. They've been an actor since the age, now this is her anime debut, but they were been an actor since like apparently the age of 3. So this is like stage, television, drama, and film. So Mamimi is voiced by the voice of Hinata Hyuga from Naruto. This is Stephanie Shea. And she's done also like a ton of ADR stuff. So like for Digicharat, she was also on ADR script and the subtitle. So again, was also working at Sync Point at this time. She was the producer and the subtitle scripter on Fooly Cooly OVAs on this series. And then she ended up being the ADR director as well as, she was the ADR director on Fooly Cooly Alternative, Progressive, and then also did more like scripting and other things for grunge and shoegaze. And a character, I don't think we've talked about this person yet. Eri Ninamori. Any thoughts about her? You know, the class president. She gets an episode, I think, where after she collides with Naota, she gets frustrated because, you know, her dad's like a bunch of political hot water. And then her robot sprouts. Like actually, she basically sprouts an angel from Evangelion.
Yeah, she does. I think that was the cat episode.
That was the cat episode.
Yeah, the cat ears. Yeah.
I do remember like the whole thing about Haruka like hitting people with a guitar, and then Naota goes flying into the class president. But because his forehead collided with her forehead, now she has a portal that is summoning robots. And so, okay, now this thing is contagious.
Yeah, no, I feel like they always have this type of character in this, I don't know if genre is the right word, but she has a grown-up attitude, but is actually quite immature. But I do feel like I guess a lot of the writers and directors, they seem to like these types of characters where they act mature, like particularly children, where they act or they sort of pretend to be mature or
like don't be in a hurry to grow up.
Their true strength comes from being honest. Yeah. And being, childish almost and expressing their feelings.
So Eri is voiced by Mika Ito, and this is her debut role in anime. Again, another live-action, stage play, television, film actress. But they've also taken up some other side roles since this, such as side roles in like K-On!, Inuyasha, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, just side characters and incidentals. On the English side, she is voiced by Melissa Fan. It's credited here as Heatherly Jolson, who is also the voice of the Tachikoma from Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, Neptune or Purple Heart from Hyperdimensional Neptunia, and of course, Edward. This is the voice of Edward from Cowboy Bebop. And then one more, Naota's dad, Kaman Nandaba, is, he's supposed to be like this investigative, fancies himself as an investigative journalist, but he's really just a deadbeat guy. And he's voiced by Suzuki Matsuo, who's also the narrator for Fooly Cooly, another live-action stage performer. Also a movie director, so he has actually worked under Hideaki Anno as well, with Studio Kara, some of his Kara works are with Shin Godzilla, Shin Kamen Rider, and Kaiji, the final game. Surprisingly for the English side, as we've been going over all of these veteran voice actors, we have Joe Martin. He's a movie actor from the 70s through the 90s, and this is his only credit for anime. And I do want to shout out real quick on the Japanese side. Speaking of Gurren Lagann, the voice of Nia Teplin is Naota's classroom teacher. So this is Yukari Fukui.
I don't think I was particularly familiar with a lot of these voice actors. They all seem pretty, at least for the Japanese side.
The Japanese side, it's like the Japanese side is like, this is like their debut or like one of the very few things that they did. So there's not really a lot to...
There's not a lot of... and obviously I did not watch the dub, so I don't know that side of the spectrum.
I think for me, I only recognize the two that were in His and Her Circumstances because that's the anime that I watched. Now that you've mentioned who they are, I know who some of the English voice actors are now that you've mentioned it. But I think at the time when I first watched it, it didn't click. I think at the time, like, oh, this voice sounds familiar, but I couldn't place it to Fooly Cooly. I could place them like to somewhere else, but not Fooly Cooly. Especially Starfire. I didn't know Starfire's voice actress was in Fooly Cooly. That was definitely news to me.
Another person, we got the voice of Amaral from the Japanese side. I'm looking around, it's like, okay, we've got this fella named Koji Okura. So he was Amaral and Mararao, and when you do like Fooly Cooly Progressive, basically his name in that one. But Kagachi from Pokemon the movie, The Power of Us, so that's movie number 21. He is Akuma from the Ping Pong, the animation, well, the Ping Pong, the live action movie. Again, another live action version of Detroit Metal City, like paragon of fandom. Yeah, and for the English side of Amaral, we have Dave Mallow, Professor Isaac Gilmore in Cyborg 009 versus Devilman. Just a ton of Digimon. Angemon and Seraphimon, I think, are just like the big Digimon. Eureka 7, Jobs. Oh, Stratzo. He was Stratzo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Oh, here we go. He's the narrator for Sayuki Reload. Which really, like, no matter the level of experience, I think it's pretty clear, like, both casts were having a lot of fun. It's worth really checking out both. Some final, like, extra little details, like, regarding why there's a particular scooter or, like, the bass guitars in the show. Like Haruko drives not just a random scooter. She is driving a 1965 Vespa Super Sport 180. It's a moped, and again, wielding this left-handed Rickenbacker 4001 bass guitar like a club. It's got like this whole ripcord. But the Vespa in the show, and then the ending credits features this photo montage of this particular Vespa. That is director Tsurumaki's Vespa. And the thing actually broke down soon after filming the ending credits to the anime. And in the ending credits, he says, I think I've owned it longer, like broken down, than I've actually driven it at this point.
It might still be in his driveway. You never know.
It might still be in a shed somewhere.
It did turn out to be a good credit sequence.
Oh, it's great. I love Ride on Shooting Star. There are no opening credits to Fooly Cooly. It's only that ending credits scene. So it's also like a little bit longer. It's like a 2 minute or two. Actually, it's almost like a full song set. It's almost like 2.5 minutes, if I think about it. Ride on Shooting Star. What do you think, as we start getting near the end here, what do you think about the sort of like the overall tone, message, kind of like getting near towards like the conclusion of the show as all of this like builds and builds and builds? What do you think of like Naota's final answer to Haruko as she's, been manipulating everyone in the background to her own ends? But, what do you think of like his confession and his solution to all of this?
I mean, I took it as kind of Haruko like realized how she was sort of responsible for Naoto, and so leaves without him, which allows for Naoto to like realize he doesn't necessarily need this crazy, chaotic thing to like some kind of outside being or force for him to be special or find closure, because he's sort of he's been in the shadow of his brother this whole time, which, by the way, I also thought, I was never sure, even to this day, I'm like, is his brother alive or is he dead? Because they keep mentioning like he's playing baseball, but I feel like that phrase specifically in Japanese, it sounds really like they're mentioning someone who passed away for some reason.
It's very ominous.
It was another thing, like Tsurumaki says, he was very clearly, the brother's alive, don't worry. But we also wanted to again, we noticed that the audience was kind of thinking that way. So then we began to, because again, Fooly Cooly was like released monthly. It wasn't like this was not a weekly thing. This was a couple of months, and then they took a break, and then they came back to do the rest of it. So they were able to take some of that feedback and kind of mess with the audience a little bit. It's also like Kanti, some folks thought that Kanti was a reincarnation, or like what happened to Naota's brother. Did Naota's brother get turned into a robot? He's never named, and you never see his face. So it's kind of like, and folks talk about it like he kind of passed on. So it's another thing of just, yes, the brother's alive, but we thought it would be funny to dress it like this.
But yeah, I do feel like for the end, he finally sort of learns to, swing his bat, basically controlling his emotions and not necessarily pushing them down.
Controlling his destiny.
And I do feel like he finds closure, and he's sort of able to move on and find an actual real maturity that he's not faking, if you will. And I guess that's, growing up.
I would definitely agree with Mikan's sentiment. My main thing is that the story of growth is still there, and then like at the end he realized he didn't really need her anymore. It's still very comedic, so it's hard to bypass that.
I think he's still like very obviously attracted to her, because like the big climax is like he's the whole thing of like with him and this big space pirate dude, or Haruko's trying to use Naota as like an object to summon this big powerful being that she's been trying to pursue and that she's in love with the whole time. And I think the ending, I read the ending as Naota going up to her, she thinks he's about to attack her, with all the power of the universe, and he stops at the very last second and he confesses to her, and it's his way of saying, look at me. Look at me for who I am, not because I have these cool space powers now. Look at me for who I am. I'm my own person now. And I think that's why, chiefly, not just because, the great big space pirate dude flies away and, that's her goal all along, but it's also like he's ready to face Haruko on even terms, but she is not. And so that's why I think she flies away.
Now that you put it that way, I see it more.
Well, as we get ready to wrap this puppy up, I would like to thank you once again for joining me on the show. And so let's cap this off with another run through of the community spotlight. Now, this is the section where I asked folks, to give me your general thoughts on Fooly Cooly. So for those of you who wrote in, I hope this was very illuminating. This is, of course, a fun discussion for us. And so let's jump into the community spotlight once more. So James from the Anime Corner podcast writes in and says, I've never seen Fooly Cooly. It's been on my list for a while. Maybe this is a sign for me to finally check it out. Yeah, I'd say so, James. Go watch the show.
Yes, go watch it.
You will not be disappointed.
We have Captain N from the Retrotopia podcast, another friend of the show, who says, I love Fooly Cooly, especially when it goes off the rails and the characters take on the appearance of South Park. What a great little show. And he asks, have you watched the other 4 series? I got through Progressive and Alternative and just learned they had 2 more in 2023, Grunge and Shogaze. Looks like it's back to the Fooly Cooly well.
I definitely have not seen all of them. I think I may have watched 1 or 2 of them, but it's on my radar.
It's on my list, but not at the top of my list, if I'm being honest.
No, I for one have no interest in the sequels. Fooly Cooly ended up in the hands of Production IG because at the time, Hideyoki Yamaga, the then company president at Gainax, sold the rights to Fooly Cooly to Production IG to help pay the debts of the studio, but he'd also previously promised to sell the rights to Hideaki Anno, but then after he got a confirmation from Production IG, he then suddenly jumped the price way up for negotiations with Anno, and then he was trying to play both sides and deal under the table. And so he ended up giving the deal over to Production IG. So ever since then, and then just the general, I don't never see Fooly Cooly as this slice of life drama that was more like progressive and alternative. It just kind of had, the whole thing just kind of had a sour taste to me. And then I saw the art style for, it was either grunge, I think, that had the weird, very, very different kind of CG style that I think I would like to keep my experience, quote, pure to just season 1 of Fooly Cooly, like a one and done. I don't need to know these complicated answers of what is Haruka's goal, or what are all these other complicated things that really weren't meant to be answered really in the first place. I don't see a big, deeper mystery here. But, I mean, if folks are curious, I mean, I'm not going to stop anyone from... It's certainly easier to watch the sequels than it is damn season 1, so who am I to say anything? Last but not least, ending on a nice note, Fallen Snow Kiku writes in again. It says, I feel like Fooly Cooly is one of those series where nothing was left off the cutting room floor. Every crazy idea was used. What if we cut to behind-the-scenes segments after one character gets hit in the head, happening like less than 10 minutes into episode 1? What if we just did a South Park tribute for no reason? What if every frame of the show is balls to the wall for no reason other than they just wanted it to be? It's one of the only anime series I've ever seen the entirety of in a single sitting. I really need to watch it again someday. The sequels try to recapture the lightning in a bottle and miss the mark, but the OG is still one of the most unique experiences the medium of anime has to offer. Before we sign off, one final time, can you tell the fine folks listening in where they may find the Anime Sakai podcast?
So you all can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Anime Sakai Podcast. And we are streaming our episodes anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and I believe we also have episodes on YouTube.
Yes, we do.
I think Mikan can confirm that. Yeah. So we are currently right now taking a break, but we will hopefully be back soon with brand new episodes for you guys. But in the meantime, you are more than welcome to stream any of our old episodes, and we hope you guys enjoy.
Listening to Anime Sakai is always a really fun, like comfy time. Even when they have arguments, it's more like the play arguments. It's almost like two friends, like just kind of elbowing each other in the ribs. Like, oh, you. Definitely give them a chance, and hope you guys check out the Anime Sakai podcast.
And thank you so much for having us here. It's been a fun time, as always.
Yes, thank you. Good to be back.
It was good to have you back, and we should absolutely do this again. So until that inevitably occurs, thank you everyone for jumping in and making it to the end of the episode. And until next time, I hope you guys all stay safe and watch more cartoons.
Yes, thank you guys. Thanks, Dave, so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.